You've been watching the wrong show your entire life. While you saw power-ups, you missed the philosopher and orange solving problems you still can't fix at 30. Goku's not a fighter, he's a teacher, and you copied the wrong answers. Here's what I mean. Every breakdown you've had about your career going nowhere, Goku solved that. Every Sunday night anxiety attack because Monday means another week of grinding toward nothing, he figured it out. That gnawing feeling that you're supposed to be somewhere else, doing something else, being someone else. Yeah, he cracked that code too. And the really insulting part? He did it while being happy. Not toxic positivity happy. Not Instagram influencer, living my best life happy. Genuinely, deeply, annoyingly content. The kind of contentment that makes you suspicious because you've been taught that satisfaction comes after achievement, after the promotion, after the house, after you finally look like your gym goals. But here's the thing. Goku never arrives. There's always someone stronger. Frieza gets beaten. Cell shows up. Cell gets beaten. Boo shows up. Boo gets beaten. And oh look, there's a god of destruction who can erase you by thinking too hard. It never ends. The opponents get stronger. The stakes get higher and the finish line keeps moving. Sound familiar? You're on the same treadmill. Except you're miserable. And he's asking what's for dinner. So what does Goku know that you don't? Because it's not about talent. The guy hit his head as a baby and forgot his world-destroying programming. It's not about privilege. He grew up in the woods eating fish and getting chased by dinosaurs. And it's definitely not about winning. He loses constantly. Vegeta, the guy with the inferiority complex the size of planet Vegeta, will tell you that. The difference is philosophical. And I'm not talking about some surface-level, enjoy the journey garbage you'd find on a motivational poster next to a picture of a mountain. I'm talking about the kind of philosophy that makes you rethink every decision you've made since high school. Because Goku accidentally stumbled into answering the same questions that tortured Camus, Sartre, and Nietzsche. The guys who spent their entire lives writing dense books about meaning, purpose, and existence. Goku just lived the answers while eating rice balls. And the worst part, the part that's going to bother you for the rest of this video, is that you've had access to these answers since you were a kid. You just thought you were watching a guy yell his way to blonde hair. So here's the question that's going to define everything that comes next. How does a man who dies twice, loses constantly, and never arrives become the most content character in fiction? The answer starts with a Greek myth, a boulder, and the most depressing philosopher who ever lived. Let's talk about why Goku never gets sad. Albert Camus wrote about a guy named Sisyphus, Greek mythology, punished by the gods to push a boulder up a mountain for eternity. Every time he gets close to the top, it rolls back down. He walks down, starts over. Forever. No progress, no escape, no point. Camus looked at this and asked the most disturbing question in philosophy. Can we imagine Sisyphus happy? Your immediate answer is no, of course not. That's hell. That's the definition of meaningless suffering. That's your job on a bad week. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Goku is Sisyphus, and his answer is yes. Think about it. Goku trains his entire childhood, gets strong, fights King Piccolo, nearly dies, trains more. Fights Raditz, dies. Comes back, trains more. Fights Vegeta, almost dies. Fights Frieza, almost dies. Fights Cell, dies again. Fights Boo, saved by a kid he just met. Fights Beerus, loses. Fights Hit, loses. Fights Jiren, saved by his friends. There is always someone stronger. The boulder always rolls back down. The mountain never ends. And yet, every single time, what does Goku say? Man, I can't wait to fight him again. Not I can't believe I have to do this again. Not when is this going to be over. Not what's the point. He's excited. The boulder rolls down and he smiles. Now compare that to you. You hit a plateau at the gym for 2 weeks and you're ready to quit. Your career progress stalls for 6 months and you're doom-scrolling LinkedIn at 2 a.m. wondering if you should pivot to selling courses. You go on 3 bad dates and you're convinced romance is dead, and you'll die alone with a podcast backlog. The difference? You think the meaning is at the top of the mountain. Goku knows the meaning is the mountain. This is what Camus was trying to tell you. The task isn't preparation for life. The task is the life. Getting stronger isn't the means to happiness. Getting stronger is the happiness. The process isn't the annoying part before the reward. The process is the reward. Goku doesn't train to become strong so he can retire and relax. That would be misery to him. He trains because training is what makes him feel alive. The struggle isn't the cost, it's the currency. And this is why you're stuck. You're treating everything like a transaction. Suffer now, happiness later. Grind now, peace later. Sacrifice now, meaning later. You're living in a permanent later that never comes because you don't know what to do when you get there. Goku wakes up, eats, trains, eats again, sleeps, repeat. That's his perfect day, not I'll be happy when I beat Frieza. Not once I master Ultra Instinct, then I'll be complete. No, he's complete now, doing exactly this. You want to know why you're exhausted? Because you're pushing a boulder up a mountain thinking the point is to get to the top. Goku's pushing the same boulder, knowing the point is the push. Camus ended his essay with this: the struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. Goku doesn't have to imagine it. He lives it. But here's where it gets dangerous. Because loving the grind isn't enough. Plenty of people love the grind and still end up empty. The next layer is darker, and it's why Goku named his son after a dead man. We need to talk about choice. Jean-Paul Sartre walked into a cafe in 1940s Paris and declared that your life has no inherent meaning. You weren't born with a purpose stamped on your soul. There's no instruction manual, no destiny. No, you were meant to do this, his exact words. Existence precedes essence. You exist first, then you decide what you are. And this terrified people, still does, because it means you're responsible. No blaming God, fate, genetics, or your childhood. You are what you choose to be, every single day. Now let's talk about Goku, or should I say, Kakarot. He was born on planet Vegeta, programmed from birth to be sent to Earth as a baby, grow up, transform into a giant ape, and exterminate all human life. That was his essence, his biological destiny, his Saiyan nature. And then he hit his head, forgot the programming, got raised by an old man named Gohan in the mountains, learned kindness, learned martial arts, learned that strength isn't about domination, it's about protection. Goku wasn't born a hero. He chose to become one. Sartre would have loved this, because Goku is the walking embodiment of existence precedes essence. He rejected his Saiyan programming and created himself. And the proof? He named his son after the grandfather who taught him what it means to be human. Not Vegeta, not Bardock, Gohan. The man who gave him values, not genetics. That's agency, that's existentialism. That's looking at your DNA, your trauma, your circumstances and saying, no, I choose something else. But here's the deeper cut. Goku didn't just choose what to be, he chose how to express it. Martial arts became his language. It's how he communicates love. He fights his wife, he fights his friends, he fights his sons. Not out of anger, out of connection. It's his art form, his poetry. Most people never find their language. You're 30 and you still don't know how you're supposed to exist in the world. Goku figured it out by age 12. And before you skip ahead, hit that like button. Because if Goku can choose his entire identity from scratch, you can choose to support a video that's actually making you think. Subscribe if you want more of this, because I promise you, no one else is connecting Sartre to Super Saiyan. Now Nietzsche, another philosopher who made people uncomfortable, asked this question: would you live your life again, exactly as it is, infinitely, forever? He called it eternal recurrence. It's a test. If the answer is no, you're living wrong. Goku's answer? Yes, wake up, eat, train, eat again, sleep, repeat. That's his perfect day. He's not grinding toward some future version of himself where he finally gets to relax. He's not thinking, once I beat Frieza, then I'll be happy. He's already happy, right now, doing exactly this. And that hesitation you just felt when you asked yourself the same question, that's the problem. You're not living a life you'd choose again. You're living a life you're tolerating until something better comes along. Goku doesn't tolerate. He chooses, every single day. He chose Master Roshi's turtle way over Saiyan brutality. He chose mercy over vengeance. He chose community over conquest. And every single choice built the person he became. You think you're stuck. You're not. You just haven't chosen yet. But here's the twist. Choosing isn't enough if you're choosing to be someone you hate. And that's why we need to talk about the moment Goku became a Super Saiyan. Because it's not about power. It's about acceptance. Simone de Beauvoir, Sartre's partner and a philosopher in her own right, introduced a concept called essentialization. It's when someone forces you into a box based on biology, race, gender, or origin, and tells you that's all you can ever be. She said it's a form of violence, because it strips you of agency. It makes you a passive thing instead of an active person. Frieza understood this perfectly. He called Saiyans monkeys, not as an insult, as a reduction. He didn't see warriors, he didn't see individuals, he saw biology, animals, things that could be controlled, enslaved, and when necessary, exterminated. And here's the really insidious part. Frieza feared that Saiyans might transcend that box, that one day they'd prove they were more than what he labeled them. So he committed genocide, blew up the entire planet. Because if you can't control the narrative, erase it. Now let's talk about Goku's relationship with being a Saiyan. It's trauma. Every single time the word Saiyan shows up in his life, something terrible happens. His brother Raditz shows up, tells him he's Kakarot, kidnaps his son. Vegeta and Nappa arrive, kill his friends, nearly kill him. He transforms into a giant ape as a kid and accidentally kills his grandfather, the one person who loved him. For Goku's entire life, being Saiyan meant violence, loss, and destruction. So he rejected it. He's not Kakarot, he's Goku. Raised on Earth, taught by humans. That's his identity. But here's the problem with running from yourself. Eventually, you have to stop. Namek. Krillin dies in front of him. Frieza laughs. And something breaks. Not just anger, acceptance. Because in that moment, Goku stops running from what he is. He's Kakarot and Goku, Saiyan and Earthling, warrior and protector. The contradiction isn't a flaw, it's the whole picture. That's what the Super Saiyan transformation represents. Not rage, not power, integration, accepting every part of yourself, even the parts you've been taught to hate. And in that one moment, he proves two people wrong. Frieza. Saiyans are nothing but monkeys. Wrong. They're more. They transcend. They choose what they become. Vegeta. You need to embrace ruthless Saiyan pride to transform. Wrong. You need to embrace yourself, all of it. Without violence, without hatred. Goku becomes the legend without becoming the monster. That's the real power. Now let's get uncomfortable. What are you running from? Maybe it's where you came from. Maybe it's mistakes you made. Maybe it's the parts of your personality you've been told are weaknesses. You've spent years trying to be the acceptable version of yourself, the version that fits, that doesn't make people uncomfortable. And you wonder why you feel incomplete. Goku integrated his shadow. You're still pretending yours doesn't exist. Vegeta, by the way, spent the next 20 years in therapy after watching Goku do in 5 minutes what took him decades. He got there eventually, but that's a different video. Here's the truth. You will never be powerful until you stop fighting yourself. You'll never be content until you accept that you're both the person you were and the person you're becoming. The integration is the point. But Goku learned something else, something darker, something that changes everything. He learned he was going to die. And not in the abstract we all die someday way. In the very real, very immediate I have a heart virus and 6 months to live way. That's when everything shifted. Because mortality does something to a man. It makes him ask the one question he's been avoiding. What actually matters? We need to talk about what happened after Goku almost died. And why Super Saiyan 3 looks the way it does. Martin Heidegger, a German philosopher who made everyone deeply uncomfortable, said this: most people don't actually live. They exist. They sleepwalk through life pretending death isn't coming. He called real living being toward death. Authentic existence only happens when you're fully aware that your time is finite, that the clock is running, that one day, without warning, it stops. Most people can't handle that, so they distract themselves. Scroll, binge, work, anything to avoid the question, if I died tomorrow, did this matter? Goku didn't have a choice. The heart virus. Future Trunks shows up and tells him, in 3 years you're going to die. Not in battle, not saving anyone, just dead from a disease. For the first time in his life, Goku has to sit with his own mortality, not as a concept, as a countdown. And here's what's fascinating. It changes him, not into someone scared, into someone present. Before the virus, Goku's default move after a fight was, okay, what's next? Who's stronger? After almost dying, recovering, coming back, what's the first thing he does? Spends time with Gohan, not training him, just being with him, camping, talking, existing in the same space. That's Heidegger's being toward death in action. Mortality makes you realize what actually matters. And it's not the next fight. It's the people you'd miss. The people who'd miss you. But let's talk about Super Saiyan 3. Because that form is a walking memento mori. Look at the design. Hair down to his waist. Eyebrows gone. Energy radiating like a supernova. It looks like finality. Like a form that's saying, this is as far as it goes. And contextually, he unlocks it while he's dead. Literally. He's in the afterlife during the Majin Buu arc. And the form itself drains his life force so fast that it burns through his time on Earth. Super Saiyan 3 isn't just a power-up. It's a metaphor. It represents the brutal reality that no one was ready to replace him as Earth's defender. He's dead, and the planet still needs him. That's the tragedy baked into the transformation. It's not a celebration, it's a crisis. And here's the part that's going to sting. Goku's legacy is in decline. Not because he failed, but because the traits that made him who he is, they're rare. Almost impossible to replicate. Think about it. Who could replace him? Gohan? Brilliant. Powerful. But he doesn't love fighting. He does it out of duty, out of necessity, not out of joy. The Sisyphean grind that fuels Goku. Gohan doesn't have it. And that's okay. He chose academics. He chose family. That's his language, not martial arts. Goten and Trunks? They've got talent, but they've never had to push the boulder. They were born strong. They don't have the mentality. Vegeta? Close. He's got the Sisyphean obsession. He'll train until his body breaks. But he lacks the second ingredient, community. He doesn't rest. He doesn't seek mentors easily. He doesn't embrace Roshi's balance of work hard, study well, eat and sleep plenty. Goku is a perfect storm of contradictions that somehow work. And storms don't repeat. Here's the uncomfortable truth. In a world with Dragon Balls, death is a choice. You can come back, but Goku chooses to stay dead when it matters, because he knows his presence stops others from growing. And when he does come back at the end of Z, it's not to fight. It's to train Oob, to pass on what Gohan and Roshi passed to him. Because legacy isn't about being irreplaceable. It's about making sure the lessons survive after you're gone. You're so afraid of dying you forgot to live. Goku faced his mortality and it made him more alive, more present, more intentional. So what do you do with this? How do you take philosophy written by dead Europeans and a Saiyan who eats his body weight in rice and turn it into something that actually changes your life? That's where the turtle way comes in. Master Roshi, the old perverted hermit who trained Goku as a kid, gave him one lesson that gets overlooked because everyone's focused on the Kamehameha. He said, work hard, study well, and eat and sleep plenty. It sounds like advice your grandma would cross-stitch on a pillow, but there's something buried in there that most people miss. Rest is as important as effort. That's not laziness. That's wisdom, because the grind without recovery is just self-destruction with better marketing. Goku doesn't just train. He eats, he sleeps, he builds relationships. He learns from people smarter than him. Vegeta trains 20 hours a day in a gravity chamber and wonders why Goku keeps beating him. It's because Vegeta treats rest like weakness. Goku treats it like strategy. The turtle way isn't about going slow. It's about going sustainable. And sustainability is what separates the people who burn out at 35 from the people who are still growing at 50. So let's synthesize everything. 4 paths, 4 philosophies. 1 framework. Path 1, Sisyphean joy. Love the process, not the destination. The boulder rolls down forever. That's not the problem. Treating it like a problem is the problem. Getting stronger is the meaning. Not a step toward meaning, not preparation for meaning. It is the thing. Path 2. Radical agency. You're not born with purpose. You choose it. Goku wasn't destined to be a hero. He was programmed to be a destroyer. He chose different. Every single day. You're not stuck. You're just afraid to choose. Path 3. Self-integration. Accept all of it. The parts you love. The parts you hate. The parts you've been running from since high school. Goku didn't become Super Saiyan by rejecting his nature. He became it by accepting that Kakarot and Goku are the same person. You're fighting yourself. Stop. Path 4. Mortality awareness. Life matters because it ends. Goku faced death and it didn't make him scared. It made him present. You're so terrified of dying you forgot to be alive. The clock is running. What are you doing with it? These aren't separate ideas. They're the same idea from 4 angles. And together, they answer the question we started with. How does a man who dies twice, loses constantly, and never arrives, become the most content character in fiction? Because Goku isn't a fighter. He's a philosopher who communicates in ki blasts. Every fight is a thesis, every transformation is an argument, every loss is a lesson. You thought you were watching a show about punching. You were watching a masterclass in existentialism delivered by a guy who can't do math. And here's what really stings. You've had access to this your entire life. Since you were 8 years old, sitting too close to the TV, watching Goku scream his way to blonde hair. The answers were right there. You just thought you were watching the wrong thing. But you weren't. You were watching exactly what you needed. You just weren't ready to see it yet. So here's the challenge. Not because we're finishing, but because this is where it starts. You've been waiting for permission to become yourself. Approval from your parents. Validation from your boss. A sign from the universe that says, yes, now you can live. Goku never asked. He woke up, ate, trained, loved his people, faced his death, accepted his flaws, and chose his identity from scratch. No permission, no blueprint, just choice repeated daily until it became a life. You think you need more time, more resources, more clarity. You don't. You need to stop pretending the boulder isn't already in front of you. The journey of life is about becoming yourself. Goku took decades to master his identity. That's normal. That's human. Even for a Saiyan, the question isn't whether you'll get there. The question is, how much time are you going to waste pretending you're not already climbing? Yeah, he's fictional, but so are your excuses. Transform.